Hi friends, this is Audi1 and you're watching part 11 of the sqli lab series. In the first 10 parts, you saw the basics of SQL injection. The injection was done in the URL field, or you can say in the get parameter, and we did starting from the error based injections. Then we covered the double injections, blind injections, boolean based, blind injections time based, and then we used the dump file or the out file. And today we would go further and do the injections in the post parameter. So for this I have chosen lesson number 12, but you can also use lesson 11, lesson 13, lesson 14 for the same, because if you see, it's also mentioned error based something, a kind of a hint. Well, what we do in the coming series or in the coming lessons would be a repetition of what we did in the get or in the earlier parts. The only difference being where we are injecting. In the earlier parts, we were injecting here in the URL, but now rather than injecting here, we will be using this form to inject. Well, people get confused between when they see a form or when they see a URL, because generally form is being considered to use as a bypass. People use it just to bypass and log in when they are testing. But the same form can be used to enumerate the database. So let's start. As we discussed earlier, that the first and the foremost thing that we need to do is to enumerate the entry points. Enumerate where we are providing some kind of input. So in this case, the visible input parts are this username field and the password field. Let's try to fuzz them. Put something. So an admin, a normal username and a password exists. So we are successfully logged in. But that is not our objective. Our objective is to first and foremost try to see if we can break this query. Let's try to inject a single quotes. Let's try to inject a single quotes in this field as well. Nothing happens. Let's try double quotes. Let's try double quotes here. Nothing happens. It broke when I provided a single double quotes. Let's copy this and let's paste it. Let's clear something. And let's analyze the query, or rather than doing it now, let's try to use the escape character, that is a backslash, and then see what the output is. So when we used a backslash, we saw clearly that there is a double quotes and there is a parenthesis, and there is some output like and password something limit 01. So if we try to build up a query that the developer has used in his application, it could be something like select star from a table, let's call it table, where username equals, and let me copy this, and password equals again this, and they are using a function limit 0 comma 1 to limit the number of entries returned. Let's give it a variable name. Let's call it for now password PSSWD and username as uname. So technically what we are inserting in the username field is getting replaced here, and what we are inserting in the password is getting replaced here. So as we see, our username field is vulnerable. So our first objective is to try to fix the query so that it works properly. So we see that by providing a double quotes, it breaks, and then there is a parenthesis, and now there are two ways for us. One is either we comment out the rest of the query or we balance. So we learn both the ways today. We actually have learned those in the previous chapters, but we are going to re-implement them in the post parameters. So let's use this, and I'm using a space at the back end. Instead of using this, we can also use the hash as a comment, and let's see. So the query worked, though we are not able to log in, but somehow it did not give us an error message. Now the test, anything that is on the left side and on the right side, in between, if we inject anything, should be executed. So let's give or 1 equals 1, and if this gets executed, then the whole statement should become true and we should get in, or we should be able to bypass the login. And there we go, we bypassed, and you see that you have successfully logged in as the username dump and the password dump. Well, for the sake of simplicity, I did not use a redirector, or I did not use another page where it will redirect you after the login or something. So I'm just using the same page to dump the output, but you can assume that once you have logged in and you have logged in successfully, you can be redirected to another page or another part of the application. Well, this works. So how to iterate more? We can use the limit function and submit, so we get the next one. Let's use 2 comma 1, let's use 3 comma 1, and so forth. So you can dump the usernames and the passwords, or you can see that if we correlate to the earlier chapters, this is more kind of a error based injection where we use the error to fix the query, and the backend database is interacting somehow with some part of application that is visible on screen. So the username and password is visible on the screen. So what we needed to do in this case, we could use the union select, but first thing we have to guess the number of columns being used in the query. So let's do it. Order by, let's take 3, and we get an error message, unknown column 3 in order by clause. Let's take 2 then, and we don't get an error. That means there are 2 columns being referenced by the backend. How the application is referencing to the database. Let's fix it here. So we are selecting column 1, column 2. Presumably it's the username and the password from table where username is something and password is something. So now let's go it further, and let's do this. Union select. We can also use union select all, or just union select 1, 2, and you see the same 1 and 2 on the screen. Database, and let's call version. There was a typo. And you see my MySQL version and the database name. Let's enumerate further. Let's say union select table, or let's say 1, table underscore name from information underscore schema dot tables, where table underscore schema equals security. And we get our first table name. And we can use the limit function to enumerate more. Limit 1, 1. Let me copy this. We got reference. Let me use 2, 1. We got uagents, and let's do it 3, 1, and we get users. Let's do a 4, 1. There's nothing. That means there are only till users. So 3, 1, that is users. Same way you can enumerate the column names using the information schema and dump the complete database. Now I think you would have gained some confidence, and you can go ahead and proceed with the double query injection, which we will cover in the next video. Coming back to the index, lesson 11 is again error based. That was in post parameter. 12 is again. 13 again something with some other form of injection, maybe using a single bracket or maybe using 2 parentheses. 14 is again the same thing, but a double injection. This time you cannot use the normal union select, but you have to use the double injection we learned previously. Well, we'll redo that in the next video. Then we'll do the blind or the boolean based, and we'll start with the injection in the update queries. Then we'll do some header based injections, and then the injection in cookies. Once we finish all this, then I plan to update the lab to cover scenarios where some filtering is involved and where some WAF is involved, some blacklist approach, some keyword filtering approach, or some other techniques. And then we'll see how we can enumerate that and how we can go through it. For now, thank you very much. Guys, please leave the feedback. Your feedback would help me improve and motivate me further to create more videos. Thank you very much. Bye bye.